Okay, we're live. And we're officially live. Not as before.
Little hiccup. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't look at that one at all. Anyway, welcome back to Book Chats with Mostly Books. I'm Jody.
I'm Aubrey.
And tonight we are discussing All's Well by Mona Awad. This is the first book I've read of hers. Have you read any of hers?
No, this is the first one for me.
I know she came out with Bunny maybe a couple years ago, and I think it's like a kind of a dark academic book.
Isn't all academia dark, though?
I think so.
Coming from a former adjunct professor.
You should know.
There's quite a lot of darkness in those hallowed halls.
Right? But anyway, I haven't read it, so this was definitely my first book of hers. I don't know if she came out with anything else. But anyway, before we digress too far, why don't you give us a brief synopsis?
Okay, so the main character is a woman named Miranda, who is a theater director. She's a former actress, a stage actress, and she specialized in Shakespearean roles. But she was injured when she very sadly fell from the stage during a performance. I don't know why I think that's funny. I'm sorry. It's treated very darkly and seriously in the book. But anyway, she fell from the stage and got a very bad injury, followed by a surgery that did not provide healing. It made things worse. So she's in too much physical pain to continue her acting career. So she becomes a theater professor at a small college in New England. And where we find her when the book opens is she is in so much pain, constant pain, that she cannot truly function. And she has become quite bitter because her doctors won't listen to her. And she doesn't feel seen. She feels very invisible. And she's trying to stage a play. She's trying to stage All's Well That Ends Well. And the students are mutinous. They want to do Macbeth instead. And nothing is going her way, and she's very, very at a low point. So we meet her at her lowest point, literally, because she's lying on the floor in her office. Because she's immobilized. And so that's where we meet her. And one thing leads to another, and she meets three mysterious figures who make a little bargain with her that she is not entirely aware that she's entering at the time. And the bargain that she makes starts to change things for her in some really profound ways. There's also a descent into madness, but we can get to that later.
Isn't all Shakespeare a descent into madness, though?
Thank goodness. And thank goodness.
Right?
Thank goodness.
Also, those dang mutinous students.
Yeah. They were a lot. They were a lot.
They were a lot. I completely agree with that statement. I feel like we should probably kick off the conversation by discussing... But before we discuss characters, I know you've had a little bit of mixed feelings on this book. Do you want to discuss that at all?
Well,
you can say no.
Well, I mean, I think that it's like when you go to an art museum, and there are lots of different paintings or sculptures by lots of different artists throughout the ages, and there's going to be a wing that you can appreciate but would never put on your living room wall, for example.
Yes.
And this book is that for me. I can tell what she was trying to do, and I appreciate it. Most of it. But it's not a book that if books were paintings, I wouldn't have this on my mantle. But I think that anybody who's been to an art museum can appreciate the point I'm trying to make.
Yes. I mean, I totally understand what you're saying with this.
Yeah.
You appreciate it for it and feel the value of it, but you don't necessarily need it in your home.
I'm not saying I'm like gonna banish it physically from my house. It's not that extreme, but yeah, if it were a painting, it would not have pride of place on the mantle. But I would definitely appreciate and understand people who would choose to have it there.
I kind of sort of feel the same way in some ways. Like, I don't think this book is going to be for everyone. However, that being said, I did enjoy it in the end.
You seemed to enjoy it more and more as it went on.
I did. I really felt the turning point was about 100 pages in when she meets those three figures.
Yes.
It completely changed for me then. The beginning was tough for me. I have a hard time with that beginning. It was you're so in her mind, it gets very claustrophobic.
It was bleak and bitter for sure.
Yes. But I really liked what the author did with this. I think that somebody who's looking for something that's unusual, not something they would normally read, but maybe leave them kind of pondering a book, this might be a fun choice.
I think it's an art piece. It's an experiment in form. And for people who appreciate literature that takes risks, and literature that's written by someone who is alluding to a bunch of other literature, I think that this would be a really, really fun read.
Yeah, which is exactly why I liked it. Thank you for summing that up.
Oh my gosh, you're so welcome. And I mean, with the 100 pages turning point thing, I mean, one of the themes is how female pain is invisible and how female pain is not received in the same way that perhaps male pain is. And you know, she has all her doctors just completely ignore what she's saying. The physical therapists always kind of criticize her for still being not healed, like, but I'm so good at my job, basically, is the vibe that they give off. And and then they just make her hurt even more. And so I think that being inside her very deeply bitter inner monologue for 100 pages sort of put us as the audience in that same place of being like, can you just get over it? Can you just, you know, why can't you just da da da?
Oh yeah.
And so, and I think that was an intelligent and creative way for us to treat her, because I remember I was saying to you when I started the book that, okay, so this chapter opens and she's literally lying on the floor and nobody is helping her and nobody sees her, nobody cares. She's in excruciating pain, and yet I don't feel sympathy for her. She's not a sympathetic character, and part of that is because she's just so bitter,
so bitter.
It's really, but I'm thinking, okay, no one is born this angry, so it made me think, why is she that? But as the time went on to get to that 100-page mark where it finally turned a little bit. You know, I started to get really tired of her, and I was noticing that in myself, and I thought, this is a good book.
I did too. Actually, again, yes, you say everything I was thinking.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
I don't know why I'm here. No,
I don't know.
I think it was really smart on the author's part. There's the word to do that, to like make us feel as upset with her, I think, as everybody around her was.
I was a bit exasperated.
And I think everyone in her life was exasperated with her. And that was really a clever mechanism she did there to then, really get you into this world and then to make you feel the change. Like, I think because she did that, you felt all of that shift. So yeah, I agree. It was a very clever move. I'm glad it didn't go past the 100 pages. I was getting to a point where I was like, I'm interested. Like, I am really interested in the storyline. Sure. But I'm really upset with this character.
Yeah, and for me, that's fine with me. I don't mind a character that I don't like. I can root for a character that I don't like at all, and that's completely fine with me. If you need your main character to be just the best person ever, maybe take a pass on this. Yeah. Or stretch yourself by reading this book, but and it's fine with me.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be for everybody, but it was fine with me.
I really enjoyed the fact that this book made me feel all kinds of emotions. I was really upset with her in the beginning, like getting on the borderline of just being like, oh my God, girl. Like, I just don't even know what to do with you at this stage. And then you get to the next part and you're like, oh, so this is how you are otherwise. And I mean, it just, I felt like I went through a whole gamut of feelings through this book. And then the end which we'll talk about more later, is unsettling. And I tend to like the unsettling endings.
It got real crazy, y'all.
Yeah.
That descent into madness thing, I mean...
No joke.
Yeah. I wasn't kidding. I was not kidding.
So I like that because it didn't tie everything up in a neat bow. And this is a book that I didn't think you could tie up into a neat little bow.
No.
Like, I would have been mad, I think, if it was.
Well, I mean, and that's a meditation on the play All's Well that ends well. They talk about all the time throughout the book about how is it a tragedy or a comedy? It's both. It's one of the problem plays. And so obviously you know this is going to be a problem book. You know that there's going to be stuff in it that does not thrill you, and there's going to be stuff in there that challenges you and makes you think about different themes and so on. Yeah. And so I think that was good. If it had like a tidy little ending, for better or for worse, it wouldn't have been true to itself.
Exactly. So, yeah.
That's okay.
It was problematic. I love that. I mean, how could she not make it that way?
Yeah,
like, after you're telling us this over and over and over, like, if you didn't sell us at the end with that, I would have been like, huh. Well, that was a big miss.
Yeah. If it had like a rom-com ending, it wouldn't have worked out.
No. Unrelated, I had a professor that called the problematic Shakespeare plays romantic plays. I don't know why he called them that. I actually think there is a little bit of a branch of people who call them that.
I'm working really hard to try to understand.
Not romantic in like the love sense.
More like in the period. Yeah. The romantic period. I'm like, I could sort of get that.
You can kind of
get that.
But
I think that's a pretentious way to talk about it, so.
When I referenced it to somebody else who studied Shakespeare, and they were like, what are you talking about? I'm like, oh, clearly yours did not follow that doctrine. But they were always like, it's funny, it's sad, it's romantic. And I was like, okay.
This is the kind of thing that Shakespearean scholars get paid a pittance to argue about.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to totally sidebar that, but I did.
You're fine. So my question for you is, you said when she turns the corner, and the gift or bargain that the three mysterious figures give to her kind of help turn things around for who she is and how she's experiencing life. Mm-hmm. You said, oh, this is what you're all about. Does that mean that you started to like her then?
Oh, that is a really, really good question. Because honestly, I'm not sure I ever liked Miranda.
Okay, good. I'm glad, because I didn't either. because that's when she starts to make morally dubious choices. And I think that's a really interesting meditation on pain, because the book goes back and forth on the theme of, does pain help you? Does pain make you a better person?
Yes.
And, we all know that a certain extent of suffering does help bring about maturity in a lot of people. Yep. But the kind of excessive, invisible pain that she's in, and that frankly a lot of women are in, I'm thinking of, friends with endometriosis, that kind of, there's no moral benefit to being in pain, and but it's set up, our society is set up to tell women that there is. Yeah. I'm thinking of, the movement to like have natural births and stuff. It's like, how does this make me a better mom? Anyways, we don't need to get into that right now. But so it's meditating on the moral value of pain a lot. And it's interesting to me that when her pain is taken away is when she starts making choices that aren't admirable, and she doesn't necessarily grow in compassion for other people who experience pain. Whereas, like, you'd think that she would, but she doesn't.
Does not at all.
And I think it's an interesting theme that the author weaves in there pretty well, actually.
I kind of want to say maybe spoilers from here, because I'd like to talk about some of this more in depth.
Okay.
So, spoilers. This is a book that I'm going to recommend if you like Shakespeare. If you want something that takes a risk, like I think you've mentioned. If you're okay not loving all the characters and not having a crystal clear ending.
Yeah, it's a book that you would really like if you really enjoy watching a skilled craftsperson do something experimental and do something that is pretty ambitious, to be honest. And if you like discussing books with other people, this is definitely a book that you can talk about for a while, for better or for worse, because it is, problematic, right? So, yeah, if that's something that you love to do and you love to really dig into the books that you read, this is a really great one to do that with.
Agreed. Okay, so spoilers from here, because I don't want to ruin this if you don't want it ruined. Okay. First off, I think we just need to give a brief little bit of... Miranda is adamant of doing the play All's Well That Ends Well.
She's obsessed with it.
Students are very much upset about this because they were promised to be able to do Macbeth. And who doesn't love Macbeth?
I love Macbeth. Favorite tragedy.
Yeah.
So good.
Exactly.
So good.
So they obviously riot. Maybe that's not obvious, but they do.
Not all of them.
All except Ellie. Her prize student. So I just want to say, get everyone realizing there's several Shakespeare plays in this book.
Yeah.
That are referenced.
It's not a retelling of any one play. It's a mashup of lots of Shakespearean sources, in addition to a little bit of Dr. Faustus.
Yeah. It was very heavily All's Well, as well as very heavily Macbeth, but there's definitely a lot of other things.
There's a bit of the Tempest in there.
We definitely felt the Tempest in there. There was a Richard III reference right off the bat.
yeah, Richard III is in there. King Lear was referenced in there. I think there were a couple of...
Midsummer's I think was also.
Midsummer and a little bit of Romeo and Juliet, a little bit. It was kind of like... I enjoyed the book more once I began looking for all the Shakespearean Easter eggs.
I did as well.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
Yes, I thought that was really fun. And I really enjoyed it when we met the three weird brethren.
Yes, the weird brethren.
Gender
swapping.
Right. AKA the three witches of Macbeth.
Yeah.
Who she makes the deal with. They were crazy, kooky, just like our witches normally are.
Yeah, I like them. I like them a lot.
So she makes a deal to give up her pain by giving it to somebody else.
Yeah, which is interesting because she's obsessed with the role of Helen in All's Well That Ends Well, and Helen is given the gift to heal others in order to get what she wants, namely for Bertram to fall in love with her. But Miranda is given the opposite gift. Yeah. She can give away her pain in order to get what she wants, which is a pain-free life and students who listen to her and a romantic interest who is obsessed with her and her dean to stop being a jerk. All sorts of things.
Yeah, it really became the perfect life.
Yeah, her imagining of the perfect life.
Yeah, it really is not perfect. For the record, the way the students started acting after that was so creepy. Did you just see them like blank face staring and responding?
Yeah, because they had been so mutinous, and then after she makes the deal with these three devils, she walks into her rehearsal and all of the students are sitting on the stage in a circle silently, just waiting, holding their scripts, just waiting for her to arrive, which is what she needs. She wants to be completely not what's the word? She does not want to be challenged on anything ever. She wants complete control over everything,
and she wants them all to look up and admire her.
Yeah, she wants to be admired. Yeah,
that she's the best actress they have ever met, and she knows everything there is to know.
She obsessively watches YouTube clips of one of her performances.
All's Well That Ends Well.
as Helen in All's Well. And she looks at the playbill photo of herself and wants to become that version of herself again, and
go back to that time of life where everything was just so perfect. You know how you all, maybe not you all, but how people romanticize the past. I mean, that's all she's really doing at this stage.
Yeah, she's definitely living backwards for sure.
And we should also note that her big fall came from the infamous play Macbeth.
Yeah, she was playing Lady Macbeth when she fell off the stage.
I mean, this is just all adding up.
I personally felt like that bit of the story was heavy-handed.
Yeah.
But I can understand why other people would disagree, and I respect that. That is fine.
Are you talking about the part where she the two play parts? Or what?
I'm talking about the very fact that she got her injury while playing Lady Macbeth. In the context of the rest of the story, I felt like that was a little obvious.
Yeah. And I think we should also note that they were going to continue to put on Macbeth for their competition and play until these mysterious benefactors came in like gave a generous donation to the college and requested that they do all's well that ends well. Yeah.
Yeah, so the weird brethren gave her what she wanted in lots of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've kind of set this stage. Let's talk more about...
You didn't even do that on purpose.
I didn't do that on purpose. So I feel like we should go back to talking about the pain, because I think it was interesting watching the characters around her being so exasperated. And they even got to the point where they were like, I don't even know, is it your back? Is it your hip? And she kept being like, it's
both. Yeah. Sorry, it happened a lot. It's both.
And I think that it was also, her whole interactions with all of her doctors were bizarre.
Yes.
I mean, they'd sit and stare at her and then tell her to do these weird bending. And they would never, okay. Now I feel like I'm just driving this in further. We don't need to maybe talk about that, because I have nothing else to say, I guess, on that.
Yeah, they don't see her. They don't listen to her. She talks about how when she was married before, the doctors would talk to her husband instead of to her, which has happened to me personally.
Oh, it's happened to me too.
And it's not a rare thing for any men watching this.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah.
And it's really, really frustrating. So that was real. Yeah.
Shoot. Oh, I felt bad, a little bit bad, when Brianna initially was given the gift of pain.
So there's a ringleader of the mutinous students. Her name is Brianna. She's the star. She's the diva. And she's only given all the leading roles because her parents are benefactors. We all know this person in our lives. Her parents are benefactors, so she's given all the lead roles, even though she's a terrible actress and she's quite full of herself. And she's the ringleader to say, like, no, we should really do Macbeth, you guys. And she, like, gets other people to, like, lobby for it and do her dirty work for her. So she's one of the main recipients of Miranda's curse. She touches her wrist, and I don't think Miranda knows it's going to happen, but touches her wrist, and a lot of her pain is transferred over to Brianna, who then walks with a limp and lists to the side and is in so much pain she's, in bed for a month and all sorts of things. So just to get back
that's
on
perfect. What I was going to say is I felt a little bit bad about her situation, but I felt not bad at all when her doctor or her physical therapist got it, because he was kind of a chump.
Oh, yeah.
Mark.
That felt like self-defense. Mark. Yeah.
Yeah, like he was like not at all listening and was really kind of injuring her.
He was abusing and injuring her.
Yes.
And she grabbed his wrist and he received some of her pain. And
slumps over.
That didn't bother me.
Nope.
At all.
At all.
It didn't disturb my conscience in the least, Jody.
No, mine either. I was like, yeah, now you get it.
Yeah. Yeah, but what was interesting is that once Brianna has the pain and Miranda is cured, she feels like she's levitating, like she's floating. She feels less and less. It's not like she doesn't feel the pain anymore. She also doesn't feel...
She feels nothing.
A lot of it. She feels almost nothing. So she doesn't step into a full life. She steps into something else.
Yeah.
And her immediate assumption about Brianna is that she's faking.
Oh, I know.
She does not... I wasn't trying to lead you on.
Okay,
I was going to say it.
I'm good, because I was like,
I'm not trying to be a mom about it. Like, what's the answer? Tell me. That's not what I was doing.
Okay, good.
Sounded like it. It's not what I was doing. Anyway, so like she immediately thinks Brianna, she's such a good actress. She's really milking this. And you're just like, Miranda.
Right?
You have just been treated terribly for years, and you have grown in compassion not at all.
At all.
At all.
And on top of that, Brianna is not a good actress. How is she suddenly a good actress doing this and faking this well?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was super weird, the lack of compassion. I mean, she was as bad as all of her friends. Like, Grace was very sympathetic, I feel like, in the beginning days. And then I think it just kind of wore on her.
Yeah.
And she was never getting better. And Grace finally was like, I'm kind of tired of this.
Yeah.
And I feel like she skipped over all of that and got to the I'm tired of this stage right away with Brianna. Like,
oh, yeah.
There was no...
And it was because she'd spent so much time being bitter at Brianna's health.
Oh my gosh.
And her superiority, that once Brianna didn't have that anymore, she was just elated. elated.
Elated.
All she could feel was joy at someone else's pain, which is just a really interesting kind of development.
Yeah, she got crazy real fast.
She got real crazy.
Like,
it was hard for me to keep all her crazy, like,
at bay.
No, not at bay. Just like keep it like in. Wait, which crazy was? I couldn't hold all of her crazy in my mind at once. It was so much crazy. She was crazy.
She was crazy in the beginning 100 pages because she was addicted to her painkiller meds because she was in so much pain, and so she would be like totally tuned out, drifting off. So I kind of understood why Grace was a little getting frustrated with her, because I think that would have been hard to be watching that.
Yeah.
And to be expecting to be put on these plays with her.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine how it was learning from this professor that was like this. But then
I can, because I had a professor who was a bit addicted to some things. So I'm like, wow, it's hard to learn.
Yeah.
It was a geography
she would just,
professor.
like, totally have like long empty pauses. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We don't need to get into it.
She's crazy there, and it's like, we need you to get help kind of way. But then she turns into this other crazy when she gets this power from the three brethren that I don't even know how to describe that crazy. Like, do you? Like, when she gets so elated? I mean, she like starts confusing people. She starts like talking to Ellie as if she's Helen.
She began to feel like she had enough energy to rebuild the past.
Oh.
That's why she kept confusing her love interest with her ex-husband.
Yeah, that got weird too. And I think he started morphing in her, like, what
yeah, like she would be looking at Hugo, her love interest, and would see her ex-husband Paul and would call him Paul. Yeah. And would call Ellie Helen. And she was it's like she got just enough energy to make all her darkest dreams come true, and it didn't leave her in a good place. And so that was part of her growth in the end, is to see if she can find a way to turn away from that for the greater good. And it's debatable on if the transformation was complete or not.
Yes, it is. We will come back to that space. Don't let us forget. Do you feel like she was already, because she was so bitter and so upset that this, like, the way she changed everyone and was living in the past was basically just amplified because she had this power? I mean, is that what you're saying, I guess?
Well, I think that the pain was taken away, but it did not change who she was and what she wanted and what she was motivated by. Mm-hmm. Because in the beginning of the book, she's paralyzed by her pain, but she's also deeply living in the past.
Okay.
The opening chapter, she's laying on the floor in pain, trying to watch a clip of herself on YouTube playing the role of Helen. So she's living deeply in the past. She's calling her ex-husband all the time just to talk, and he's like, you really can't talk to me this. I'm sorry, like, we're divorced, yo. Like, stop calling me. So she's living in the past, and then all of a sudden the pain is taken away, but she still wants the same things.
Okay.
So she tries to manifest.
Okay, that makes sense.
The past.
Yes, and I think that's kind of how I took it as well. And then with the added bonus of having all that power, she was kind of able to do that to expand.
Yeah, she was. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Do we want to talk about the end?
I would love to hear what you think about the end.
The end was so... Okay, I finished that end scene and thought, oh my god, did we just get into the Tempest? Because I feel like I just came out of this...
super Tempest.
This crazy storm.
There was a literal Tempest, yeah.
Yeah, because she's... Okay, it's opening night. They're going to do All's Well. Mm-hmm. She's there, she's ready, but then she's like hearing this weird sound, so she walks back to the sound booth. And then it gets really crazy because, like, all these visions start, like, appearing. She sees Grace, who she thinks is dead.
She thinks she killed her.
She touched Grace. And
we haven't heard from Grace in, like, a month, it seems like, is she okay?
I definitely was like, Grace is dead. Grace and her dragon are dead.
Her bearded dragon. It's a lizard. It's not a real dragon.
Real dragon.
Because, like, you wouldn't know because this book is
a little crazy.
So crazy. Like, is it a dragon? It's not.
No. But I really was like, oh my god, I'm really worried about this dragon.
You're the person who's, like, always worried about the dog. Like, wait, save the dog. Like,
yes.
Like in Independence Day, that was, like, the worst scene. Boomer!
It's okay. He was okay. So, Yeah, that's me. Anyway, so she's confronting the fact that she possibly could have killed Grace. But at the other side, she's kind of getting what she wants if she goes this way and ignores Grace. But I think at this point in this weird hallucinogenic dream, she decides to save Grace, which is her turning point for the hopefully coming out of this weird black morality.
Yeah, she has to turn away from the vision of her ex-husband loving her
with a baby.
She has to turn away from the vision of her having a baby. She has to turn away from a lot of things that she has been really wanting in order to save her friend. That she has a vision of her friend dying.
Yes. I mean, she sees her in the hospital and this with the doctors. It got very serious, and at some points I actually was like, are we actually at the hospital?
Like, is this real?
Because
and it wasn't. But
her reality kind of had already started shifting so much that you didn't necessarily know
couldn't quite tell,
what was real and what wasn't. But then she saves Grace, and then we end, and the play was fabulous. The packed house was wonderful. Everyone's clapping. Grace comes and sees her.
Yeah.
And it's more or less an okay ending, except that she didn't do her. All they wanted was a good show. As part of the bargain with the three brethren, and they didn't feel they got that. So now she has to go pay the piper.
Yeah,
basically,
and get her. She thinks she's going to go get all of her pain back.
And we end the entire book with her sitting at the bar, not meeting them.
Like there's a big storm, and she hears them outside, but they don't come in.
And next to another lady that I think we both agree was a version of her and her pain.
When she was still drinking excessively. Yeah.
So I said that could be her future self, because I'm not convinced they won't come back.
And I thought it was the future self she would have become had she not gone through all of this.
Right.
And sort of come back to herself. Because she starts, like, feeling normal sensations after a while. And...
Oh, yeah, that was weird when she had that cut, and she was like, it must have been a very serious cut for the record.
Yeah, but it was crazy, y'all. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we disagree a little bit about the meaning of the ending, and I think that that's probably a good sign.
It's why it's unsettling and problematic.
It's a problem.
All's well.
Did you catch the references to Macbeth with her white dress covered in poppies?
Yes. How could you not?
It was pretty like,
oh my
let's
gosh,
insert this again. Just so you know, this dress is supposed to remind you of Lady Macbeth and out damn spot. Like, that's...
Oh, and the stinking glasses the bartender was always cleaning. And
the bartender's always trying to clean the red lipstick off this one glass.
But the spots just won't come out.
The spots won't come out, y'all.
I completely forgot about when she goes out into the ocean in real life, not in her weird
she goes
Tempest.
For a really weird swim in the ocean.
And when is she going to get out of the poppy dress?
Yeah, she was like wearing this dress for like, days and days and days. She must look like a total sea hag.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I forgot all about how she comes to the opening night production. And then with the whole week.
Yeah.
Okay.
She probably looked a lot like Orlando Bloom's dad in Pirates of the Caribbean Line with Barnacle.
Yes! Sadly, that's what I saw too. Oh
I don't think she looked great for opening night, y'all.
Yeah. I think people were like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, they were all like...
We thought she was bananas before. Especially because she's like, I look great. Like, she was all
She's
ready.
like glowing and so happy. so happy. But you're like, wait, but isn't she wearing a week-old dress and covered in like sea salt and stuff?
Seaweed. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
If you love Descents into Madness, you will love this book. You will love it. It is one long descent into madness.
Oh my gosh, is it ever?
Which is very Shakespearean.
I think Tempest as well for that.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about Ellie, though, briefly, and her baths.
Oh.
Because, like, a part of me kind of was like, did Ellie help? Because she technically, supposedly, heals Brianna on stage. And she was going to make it right because she practices Wicca. She, I'm sure, did some sort of spell on Brianna. Which is why Ellie feels like Brianna's pain and sickness is actually from her. It's not.
It's not.
But then she also was like, I'm going to fix it tonight. I've healed you. Because she thinks she's healed Miranda. Because Miranda keeps saying, yes, your baths are working great.
Like, sure, because she doesn't really want to tell her student about the Faustian bargain she made with 3 mysterious strangers in a bar one night, so understandably.
But I mean, this is sort of weird. Like, so then now Ellie really thinks she has healed Miranda as well as cursed Miranda.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that?
I thought that it was coincidentally lined up, like the healing of Brianna on stage by Ellie. I thought it was coincidentally lined up with when Miranda had her little transformation backstage, and then Ellie got to feel like it was her doing it when really it was Miranda. That's what I thought. I thought Ellie was an interesting, like, fake witch stand-in for the book when the real witches were the 3 guys in the Weird Brethren. Yeah.
I think so too. But I was kind of like, well, I kind of feel bad for Ellie now because she totally thinks she did all these things. And this is going to be a weird wake up one day. And she's going to forever be like, but I did it this one time. Like, I did do it though. And I don't know. I feel like that could be traumatic later in life.
Well, do you think that has anything to do with the themes of, like, female pain and women not being heard or seen and listened to, and she thinks she's powerful but she's actually impotent?
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's an interesting little mix.
I think that's a very valid point. And it's also interesting that the women weren't listening to the women.
Yeah. There was very little camaraderie there.
Very, very little. Yes. All right, my friend. Anything else?
I think that Grace was obviously an allegorical character.
Yes. Agree.
And I began to be bothered by it. Oh. But I don't know how you feel about it.
I don't think I was bothered. Because I don't have any strong inkling one way or the other. Can you tell me why you were bothered?
I think I was bothered by it because of the way her name was used in sentences. Like, once you know that a character named Grace is an allegory, anytime that word, her name, is used in a sentence, you automatically think of, like, a literal meaning for that sentence. Like, I left Grace behind, or I needed to save Grace, or, you know, Grace was texting but I was ignoring, or whatever. And that began to feel like, okay, I got it. But I think it was a good idea, though.
Yeah. It didn't bother me, although I totally understand why it bothers you. Like, I just don't think I was even thinking that way, I guess.
That's fair.
But I should also note that sometimes when I realize these are just wild rides, I'm like, okay, I know my expectations.
Buckle up.
I'm just going to go with this. So I can put aside a lot of those things and just be like, okay, I can totally enjoy this weird ride if you do it well.
That's great. I wish I could do that, because when I pick up on the fact that the author is trying to do something ambitious, I get very critical. And I don't know what that is in me, but it's like, okay, if you're gonna try this, I mean, you better not fall off that tightrope, girlfriend. And so I'm like looking like, is she doing it right? Is the writing tight? Is she doing it okay? And so anytime it's like, she's wobbling on that tightrope. So I get like hypercritical when I see someone being ambitious with their writing.
Oh, that's so funny. And I'm just like, all right, let's do this.
I love that.
I think it's awesome you're taking this risk, and I will totally just go for it. Like, let's just do it.
Oh, I wish I could be more like you.
Yeah, you should.
She's better than us all.
I know. I really appreciate an author who's, like, willing to do something unusual.
Yeah.
I like to be surprised, and I like to be like, huh, that was different. I really, because I feel like I read a lot, and it can become...
Yeah.
It can become much the same.
Oh,
and so this kind of thing it excites me. So I commend that.
Yeah, I like that she did something different. I'm not saying she shouldn't have walked on that tightrope, but I just get hypercritical. But I think that it was really good that she did this thing, and I think that the book world is better for having experiments like this being published and well received by most reviewers, and I'm glad that she did it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was a wild ride.
It was.
And it's so funny because, I read a lot of books that are very submerged into Shakespeare. Okay. This is sort of a thing I do.
Cool.
But they're often very, very different. It's very interesting how every author approaches like how they're going to handle Shakespeare and how they're going to incorporate it into their book differently.
Well, I think that's also a decision that directors make when they're staging Shakespeare's plays, because you can have Romeo and Juliet be set, you know, like West Side Story. You can have it be set in a completely different country. You can have it be set in so many different ways, and you can do that with all the plays. And because there's no stage direction,
you can add a kiss dialogue at the end of the play.
You can add a kiss
just because you want to.
Yeah, yeah. There's a line in Much Ado About Nothing that is done differently every time I've seen it, and sometimes it's hysterical, sometimes it's more poignant, depending on how the actor phrases, how the director
has them deliver it.
And I think it's the love me, why it must be requited, and some people deliver it as love me. Why?
Yes, I have seen that.
And then they say, it must be requited. Or they'll say, why, it must be requited. You know, it's different every time. And I think that that's one of the magical things about Shakespeare, that you can do it almost any way you like. As you like it. As it
All's
were.
well.
All's well.
So, would you read another book by her?
Probably not, only because I have so many other books that I need to read.
That's totally fair.
And I really, really like romance novels. So.
That is not this.
This is not a romance novel. So, probably because I have a big stack of ARCs at home, as you know. So, probably not.
That's totally valid. I totally get that. And I really appreciated that you read this with me. Like, that you were willing to do
it. This is a book that you should read with people so that you could talk about it. Would you read another by her?
Perfect book club.
Yeah, perfect for book club.
I was thinking about getting her bunny book like next week.
Cool. Tell me what you think.
Oh, I will. I hope it's good. Like Dark Academia, man.
I've had too much of Dark Academia in my former careers, so I'm like,
don't need that.
Don't need it. I've been there.
Right.
It's too traumatic.
All right. Any last thoughts before we sign off?
No, but I'm glad that we picked this book so we could talk about it. It's a great book to talk about.
Definitely do it for your next book club. All right. Well, next week I will be joined by. Anyway, Melissa will be joining me.
Melissa will be here.
I know. Don't know why I'm having a hard time speaking tonight.
It's late. It's Friday.
Right. And we will be discussing the best of the best historical fiction as told by us, because we have not read all historical fiction.
What?
But it should be fun. So definitely tune in. And, you know, of course, if you love following our productions, you can always subscribe on our YouTube channel. And then you won't miss any episode. All right. On that note, good night.
Night-night.